Finally, we decided to add four-wheel drive to this car, especially since it was meant to have it. But then we found more surprises. There were metal wedges added to the main surfaces of the rear torsion beam. I guess this is how they lifted the suspension, because it twists the entire beam. It would be okay, but it isn't even tight. And we were driving it for a while with this dangerous flaw. The rear torsion assembly is completely loose. Good thing we caught this now, especially because we wanted to drive around a little before we stripped the entire body completely. We got lucky. Actually, we are here because we wanted to remove the rear differential and drive shaft, but there was another surprise. The rear differential body was completely empty. There was no differential, no satellites, no gears, just nothing. They just disappeared at some point. Thankfully, we managed to get another rear diff from the previous owner, and this one has everything we need. However, first I need to understand in what state it is now, because it looks really rough from the outside.
mic is in the right position.
And listen to everything, guys. I could never do that. I need like compartments, I need zippers, I need all of the organization. I can't even breathe. All of that is a plan for one video. Morning, there is no plan. We have nothing.
I know.
Discovering the time.
Our subscriber helped us find quite rare parts, such as this coupling, a missing gear for the portal hub and 2 thrust plates for the drive shafts. You know, I came up with a nice phrase: end user care lies with end user. It's hard to explain it clearly, but I will try. This is a through bolt. There are situations when I need to remove and put back the spindle, and this bolt stays inside. It has a T-shaped head which must engage with the spindle end. You can't even imagine how hard it is to do it on the car, so I machined small chamfers on it, and it makes the installation process dramatically easier. I have no idea why the factory didn't think of this. Also, we didn't have the spring that locates against the gear, but sometimes I think I can find almost anything in our garage that fits almost everywhere. A small but important improvement: the torque tube is connected to the gearbox with these 4 nuts, but 2 of them are so difficult to access, so I ground them from 19mm to 17, so it's easier to wrench them with a smaller wrench. Well, finally all the portal hubs are rebuilt. Now we can assemble all the components for the complete 4x4 drivetrain. The only thing that stops us from enjoying it is a missing driver yoke and a spoiler and snow. But the first 2 problems I can easily address by triggering a quick search in the backyard. These parts are from a distant cousin of this car. This donor appeared in one of our past episodes. I almost tossed out these parts, but luckily I didn't go through with it. The next upgrade, or I would say a necessity for safety, we decided not to swap the rear drum brakes for disc brakes because the rear part of the car is so light. When I pull the handbrake on the move, it just locks these huge wheels completely, so we can simply improve what we have here to get a nice braking balance. The wheel cylinders here are shot, and considering we upgraded the master cylinder, these are too big and require more fluid to move the brake shoes far enough. We found these smaller in diameter, which is good and brand new. Of course, they don't fit right away, but after some elbow grease, they find their home here like they were always there. As you can see, there was a mixture of grease and gear oil in this portal hub, and even the transmission oil that was added later couldn't thin out this fairly thick lubricant. So we need to clean all of these out now, clean up the maintenance surfaces, fit new gaskets, and yes, we also need to replace this seal because the correct one has an additional dust lip, because these operate in harsh conditions and the second lip is essential here. And because we swapped the wheel cylinders, we need to adjust the contact points on the shoes so they fit nicely and find the correct length for them, taking into account all the new circumstances. The old cylinders had different dimensions and required a specific contact profile. The new ones are much smaller, so the ends should be more tapered. These welded plates allow us to find the sweet spot by grinding them to size. The rear left shaft in this car is the shortest one, and of course we don't have one. But we found a random half shaft from its sibling, and I think a welder and a grinder can help us make it to the exact size we need. Well, I went for it and made this. I agree, it's not the best looking solution, but it should work temporarily. On the other hand, it looks really strong, but don't be fooled. Welding isn't the best way to join shafts that experience alternating twisting loads, but I have been granted permission to do so because I can almost hear the noise of the snow, which is already coming. The forecast says it's coming from the Balkans.
Show me all the places I've never known.
And another test drive. We are genuinely excited to test it today. Look at the snow. We aren't used to this amount of snow and it will only last 2 days, so we have almost no time. Additionally, it's minus 10 degrees Celsius, which is ridiculous in March. It seems like the odds are in our favor. That's crazy, the engine hasn't even noticed that it is 10 degrees below zero and started right up. Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with this air-cooled V4 engine. It shouldn't be a long off-road session, we are just going to dip a toe in. worth mentioning that this car doesn't have a front diff lock, and the existing rear diff lock isn't connected yet. So today's formula is: the front and rear axles are rigidly connected because there is no center diff whatsoever, but the left and right wheels are independent of each other. It's not perfect for these conditions considering the tires, but it should be much better than a regular two-wheel drive car. And I don't have any experience with such a machine in this weather environment, so don't judge me harshly. But no, I forgot about an ace up our sleeve. We have low range. It helps dramatically in terms of off-road capabilities, and it will be definitely a challenge to drive around without any heater in the cabin. It was really fun. There was some trial and error. I tried to combine low range, reverse and four-wheel drive to overcome different snowy obstacles, and it coped with it successfully. But then something unexpected happened. It just stalled in the middle of nowhere. Fortunately, this nowhere was 70 meters from home, but circumstances were against us because it was simply impossible to push it back by hand with this amount of snow. It was absolutely clear that the problem was in the wiring, but the gathering twilight didn't give me enough time to comfortably assess everything. I was moving every wire, every connection until the camera died in the freezing temperature. Fortunately, I managed to run the car after dark. I actually used my head for once and just connected the ignition directly to the battery. It was sufficient to crawl back home and find the main problem. And you know what? It was a mysteriously burned fuse. What caused this? I don't know even now. Well, that's the way the piston turns.